flying to the moon.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Your Impact, the show that explores the lives of women that change the world through science. I'm Cassandra, your host, and today we're diving into this unapologetically brilliant life, one only, the woman that we all should learn her name, Eunice Newton Foote. Do you know her? Trust me, you would like to know her. Her story combines raw scientific curiosity and a fearless spirit for social change. Now grab your coffee and let's dive into this women's story that make a huge impact in our world. Now, Eunice Newton Foote, one name that we all need to know because we know what she discovered. And she discovered the greenhouse gases and how they impact our planet. And we still don't know her, most of us. Some people do, thankfully, and we learn about her through them. But most people don't. We know about the greenhouses, climate change, the science, but we do not know who is responsible for the starting point of this science. And it's here, it's a woman. Again, Eunice, it's her discovery. So let's dive in on her story. So her story started in the early 19th century. So a lot of decades ago in 1819. So it was like great grandmother's time. She was born in Connecticut and later years, and later she grew up in New York, where there was the beginning of women rights movement. So imagine the social, the political landscape back then. So imagine growing up in a society that believed women's place is only at home and not studying and not having a career, especially in science. So she didn't have actually the typical woman's education back then, but she attended the Troy Female Seminary in New York, one of the few places that they provided women's education as well as boys. They accepted women for academic education. So she went there and she saw everything, especially science, chemistry, natural philosophy, botany. She had that curious mind that most science pioneer we see they have back then. But growing up with that kind of background, she didn't just stop and the empowerment and the curiosity in the lab, but she had that empower later, not only science, but social advocacy. Now here is when Eunice's genius brain shines. So picture a sunny day in New York. The year is 1856. So 150 years ago, approximately, back then. She wanted to test a brilliant idea she had, to test how different gases actually hold heat. So that's what she was doing, the genius, Eunice. Back then, she wanted to test this idea. She used a very clever, simple way to test it. It involves a glass cylinder, a few different gases like regular air, carbon dioxide, and moist air, and some thermometers she had in her house. She measured how the sun rays heated each gas. And what she found out? She found that carbon dioxide and water vapor actually retain most heat. and what we call today greenhouse effect. Greenhouse effect. Her experiment may be, feel very simple for today's lab, but it wasn't. Back then, it was a revolutionary idea, and it just points out the effect of CO2, the carbon dioxide, what that actually warms the planet. So it was her way to say, hey, our atmosphere is not just a passive blanket, it's a living thing. It has got a memory to heat. But Eunice wasn't really confined in the lab, in the university, in the academic life. After marrying attorney Eunice Foote in 1841, she settled in Seneca Falls, New York, and she stepped into the early women's rights movement. In 1848, she attended the Seneca Falls Convention, an event that would plant the seeds for women's equality. She proudly signed the Declaration of Sentiments, demanding equal rights and sparkly conversation about equality in women's rights. So it's really inspiring for me to think that she did all this academic work about climate change science early in the infancy. They didn't call it back then like that. But she also challenged the norms, the social norms back then. And she was fighting for a better place for any woman on the planet. She was really an inventor and innovator for her time. In a time where women didn't have that experience, they wasn't expected to do any man's work, as they call it, the science back then. She rolled up her sleeves and she dived into inventions and progressive ideas like the greenhouse effect, as they call it today. Eunice actually embodied the really innovation and defined expectation for her time. But as any woman back then, and unfortunately still, she wasn't recognized for her work, her groundbreaking work. Her contributions actually forgotten after her passing in 1888. It was actually a century later that academics and scientists rediscovered her work, realizing that the heat absorption properties of CO2, like the scientist John Tidal. But today, we honor her, not only as a pioneer in climate science, but also a fearless advocacy for women's rights. Her story reminds us all that sometimes history needs a little nudge from us to remember the game changers, the ones that dare to see the world differently. So let us wrap this episode of Eunice Newton Foote. I hope your journey combining scientific brilliance with passion about social advocacy inspire you like inspire me about women, what do they can do when they are not recognized, but they actually do the work. And when they do recognize and take into consideration how their findings can actually be used to see our world and understanding our world better. So remember, every simple experiment can actually spark a revolutionary idea, and every voice, no matter how quiet it was once believed, it can actually change the world. Thank you for turning on Her Impact. If you love diving to another story, stay tuned. Let's explore the lives of amazing women in science together. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, keep experiment in the world, and keep making your impact.
I'm flying to the moon with you tonight. I'm